Okay, so this is Mrs. Graviti, and this is going to be our next lesson, 1.2 multi-step equations. This is Monday's work, so this is 1.2 part 1 video, and our learning target is to solve a multi-step equation, just meaning more than 2 steps. So our key idea here is to solve a multi-step equation. We use inverse operations, that means opposite, and we use those to isolate the variable, meaning get it alone. So here are our steps. When we just have a basic 2-step equation, that's what we're going to start with. We first get rid of addition or subtraction by doing the opposite of each other. So that's step 1. We always look to get rid of that first. That's the number by itself, or also known the constant. So I'm going to put number by itself. It might have a plus or a minus sign in front of it. The next part is to get rid of multiplication or division. That will be our last step when we undo that. That is the number that has a coefficient, so that is a number attached to the variable. And the variable, it can be attached by being right next to it, such as here. It can also look like a fraction where it's a variable over a number, but it will be right next to the variable. So let's look at example number 1, where we have 1.5 times x plus 15 equals 24. What we want to do with this problem is look at what we are going to undo first and then what we will do second. So first we always get rid of the number that's by itself. So just like with a 1-step equation, I'm going to draw in my line. I know I'm working on this side over here because that's where the variable's at. And step 1 is to get rid of addition or subtraction first. I see this plus 15, so I'm going to undo it by doing minus 15 to both sides. It cancels over here. I'm going to bring my 1.5x down, put my equal sign in, and 24 minus 15 is 9. Now my last step, or my second step. We always get rid of division or multiplication by doing the opposite. This says 1.5 times x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 1.5. This cancels, and I'm left with my x equals, and then 9 divided by, in your calculator, 1.5 would be 6. So that would be the answer here. Let's look at example 2. Same idea. Put my line in. I know I'm working over on this side and bringing things to the other side because that's where my variable's at. Step 1 is to get rid of addition or subtraction first. So I know I have to get rid of this plus 1 by doing minus 1, minus 1. It cancels, and I'm left with negative 3 times z equals, and then 7 minus 1 is 6. My next step is then to get rid of negative 3 times z by dividing by negative 3. Divide by negative 3, and I use the fraction bar because that's division. Those cancel. I'm left with z equals, and then 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. When you use your calculator and you put in numbers, make sure you're careful with the positive and negatives. Now this next one, let's take a look at example 3. It looks a little bit different. When I do the line, I'm working on this side over here, on the right side, because my variable's over here. So the steps are still the same. I'm just bringing things to the opposite side. So again, I look to get rid of addition or subtraction first, or the number that's all by itself. So I got to get rid of this minus 3 or negative 3 by doing the opposite. So plus 3, it will cancel on this side, and I'm left with 28. And then I put my equal sign. And then what I'm going to do then is drop down my 8.2x. My last step is to divide by 8.2, divide by 8.2, and then I should be left with x equals 3.4. And then I circle my answer and I'm done. So this last problem I want to look at is one that has the variable in a different position, but it's still a two-step equation. Drawing in my line, my variable's over here, so I know I'm taking things to the other side. I'm going to read this problem. It says w divided by 15 plus 5. So I know right away I have to get rid of my number by itself, the plus 5, by doing minus 5 and minus 5. That cancels out, and I'm left with w divided by 15 equals, and then negative 10 minus 5 gives me a negative 15. Make sure to use your calculator if you don't know your integers well. So then, this says w divided by 15. I have to get rid of the divided by 15, so I'm going to multiply by 15. Multiply by 15. I cancel over here, and I'm left with, I'm going to write that over here, I'm left with w equals negative 225. So now I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try the next two problems on your own, and then start it again to check your work. Okay, so here are the two examples all worked out. A was pretty straightforward. You just had to be careful to make sure you're always doing the opposite on both sides, so x equals 3. And then B was a little bit tricky because we have the number out here in front. It starts as positive, and to get rid of it, you have to do the minus. So it didn't have a sign in front of it, but that means it's positive. So then we would have did that first. And the other tricky part is when you divide by 4, a lot of times I'll have kids put 2 because they think 2 goes into 4, but this is the smaller numbers on top and the bigger numbers on bottom, so you're just simplifying the fraction. Or if you put it in your calculator, you put the top number in first, divided by the bottom number, and that would have got you a positive 1/2 or a positive 0.5, because 2 negatives give you a positive. So the video's over now. That's how you solve just a basic two-step equation. I want you to go ahead and do the next page, which is your homework, and you will bring that in, finish the next day. If you're remote only, you can take a picture and email me.